Tina from Tina's Spanish Cafe, where, as you know, we have a little bit of conversation, always some cafecito, but most importantly, where we learn some Spanish. Today's lesson is stem changing verbs. And what are stem changing verbs? There's a group of verbs in Spanish whose stem changes, not the endings, but the stem. One very important thing to remember about these verbs is that the stem change only takes place in the present tense, not the preterite or the past. Should we take a look at them on the board? The first group of stem changing verbs are the verbs whose E in the stem changes to IE. And I use the verb cerrar, which means to close, as an example. It's already been conjugated, and remember, to conjugate a verb means that each subject takes its own ending. And in order to understand this lesson, we are assuming that you know how to conjugate verbs. But if you need a refresher, please go back and take a look at my videos on verb conjugations. So the verb cerrar, the E in the stem changes to IE. You have yo cierro el libro. Tú cierras. Él, ella, usted cierra. Nosotros cerramos. And you have noticed that I have the nosotros form circled. And that is because the nosotros form does not have a stem change. It stays the same. Ustedes, you all, cierran. Ellos y ellas cierran. Again, the E in the stem changes to IE. I have included a list of verbs that have the same stem change and they are conjugated in the same way as cerrar. The first one here is the verb perder. Perder, to lose. Los alumnos pierden el juego de fútbol. The students lose the game of soccer or football. Perder, to lose. Entender. Entender means to understand. It is similar, or actually the same meaning as the verb comprender. Comprender does not have a stem change, but entender does. Yo entiendo muy bien el español. I understand Spanish very well. Comenzar. And right underneath it says empezar. Both of these verbs have the same meaning, to begin. La clase de español empieza a las 8. Or, la clase de español comienza a las 8. Same meaning. Next verb that we're going to take a look at is preferir. Preferir, to prefer. Yo prefiero el fútbol al béisbol. I prefer football to baseball. I have underlined the second E, and that is because it is this E, as you've noticed in the example that I just did. It is this E that has the stem change. It's yo prefiero. The last example that I have here is mentir, to lie. La profesora de español nunca miente. The Spanish teacher never lies. Miente. I have included in this group the verb tener, and I put a star by it. The reason is because the verb tener doesn't quite follow the same pattern, since the yo form is irregular. It's yo tengo. However, the rest of the forms for tener does have a stem change from E to IE. Therefore, it's yo tengo, but tú tienes, él, ella, usted tiene, nosotros tenemos, no stem change of course, ellos o ustedes tienen, ellos y ellas tienen. So I included it in this group of verbs, but do remember that the yo form is tengo. Now we're going to move to the next group of verbs that has a stem change. In this case, the stem changes from an O to a UE. The verb that I've chosen as an example is the verb volver, to return or to go back. Yo vuelvo a España todos los veranos. I return to Spain, or I go back to Spain every summer. Yo vuelvo. Tú vuelves. Él, ella, usted, you formal, vuelve. Nosotros, ¿verdad? Nosotros volvemos. And why is the nosotros form circled? You're absolutely right. Because the nosotros form does not have a stem change. Nosotros volvemos a España todos los veranos. Ustedes, you all, vuelven, and ellos y ellas vuelven. As I did with the first group of verbs, I've also included a group of verbs here that is very common and that have that stem change from O to UE. Devolver. Now, what is the difference between volver and devolver? There is a difference. Volver means that you yourself return or go back. Yo vuelvo a España todos los veranos. I return to Spain every summer. But yo devuelvo el libro a la biblioteca. Devolver means to return an item. I return the book to the library. Nosotros devolvemos los zapatos a la tienda. We return the shoes to the store. The next one under devolver is dormir. Yo duermo 8 horas todas las noches. We sleep, or I sleep, 8 hours every night. Yo duermo. Nosotros dormimos bien todas las noches. We sleep well every night. The next one, almorzar, to eat lunch. Yo almuerzo un sándwich todos los días. I eat a sandwich for lunch every day. Ustedes almuerzan pan y sopa todos los días. You guys have soup and bread every day. Ustedes almuerzan. The next one, mover. Mover, to move. To move an item, not when you move from house to house. Mamá mueve los muebles todas las semanas. My mom moves the furniture every week. Yo muevo el libro. I move the book from one place to another. The next one, mostrar. Mostrar, to show. Yo muestro, yo la profesora, muestro los verbos a los alumnos. I show the verbs to the student. Yo muestro. Nosotros mostramos. We show. Nosotros mostramos las fotos. We show the pictures. Did you notice that the nosotros form is not, the stem is not changed there? Recordar. To remember. To remember. I always tell my students that one way to remember the verb, what the verb recordar means, is that it sounds like the English word to record. And when you record something, you do it to remember. So, yo recuerdo mucho a mi abuela. I remember my grandmother a lot. Yo recuerdo. Nosotros recordamos a los alumnos. We remember the students. The next one, morir. Morir, to die. Muchos niños mueren de hambre en países pobres. A lot of children die of hunger in poor countries. I also included an extra verb here, the verb jugar. I put a star by it because just like the verb tener doesn't quite follow the pattern, the verb jugar doesn't either because it's not an O that changes to UE in the stem, it's the U. So jugar, to play a game or to play a sport, not to play an instrument. Yo juego fútbol, I play football. Nosotros jugamos baloncesto en la escuela. We play basketball at school. So in this case, in the verb jugar, the U does change to UE, and then it follows the same pattern as the verbs that we just spoke about. So, to finish, two things to remember that are very important. In the stem changing verbs, it is the stem that has the change, where the change takes place, not the endings. And the second thing that's very important, this change only takes place in the present tense. And that is the lesson of stem changing verbs. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you learn a lot. And gracias y hasta la próxima.